This video is dedicated to thecuber, one of my Parlay certified patrons. You too can get my response to your requested topic every month if you join thecuber as a $9 monthly patron on patreon.com/zandypants. Now, behold, thecuber asks, when you say how well a video did financially, what is that relative to, and is there some kind of average, and what statistics are available? To answer this topic all at once would be a fool's errand, so obviously we're going to do it. I hope this ancient doesn't get tired. I'll start by noting that a video's financial success is not always my goal, and I do often make videos with one goal or another in mind. So after I answer your question from a financial perspective, I want to talk about other goals I might have for a video and how they relate to that one. Since my answer will be a long one, quickly, financial success and other forms of success are generally pretty directly related. It's just that the other forms of success are very hard to actually see and quantify. So usually I talk about financial success as just the number of views for the most part. As I'll get into a little bit, the view count can mean very different things, but the one thing it does fairly reliably mean is that I get some amount of money, and that amount of money doesn't change that much between videos. I generally make about $1 for every 1,000 videos, every 1,000 views I get. That number is called CPM, and that amount is relatively low in the grand scheme of things, as I understand it, although it has gotten lower in recent years, which I'm sure you're aware of. Videos over exactly 10 minutes long can show ads that have guaranteed payout if they show. So generally those videos earn higher averages, but we're not talking about a gold rush here, maybe about 125 for every 1,000 views. I calculated my average earnings across all the videos I've ever put up on my main channel, and that does include a few unmonetized videos, and that CPM was about 80 cents. So again, there's a general average, a few general averages for me, and they're fairly low as I understand it, but not too low. My most successful video, my drift frame racing tier list, has made me about $1,300 total. So just to give you an idea of the kind of money we're talking about when you get a successful video. That's pretty spicy. That's pretty good earnings for that video at a higher CPM. But that video is also my most successful by a much more important metric, which we'll get back to in a few minutes and which you can probably guess. YouTube and Google have very advanced statistical tools, and that's how I got those numbers, but for recent videos, they merely estimate, although I don't mind saying it's fairly accurate. So if I put up a video, 5 days ago, I haven't been paid for that yet, invariably, but I do get a fairly accurate representation of how much money I am making on that video. And just for the record, I don't check that all that much. So for answering this question, I spent a lot of time digging through analytics that I'm familiar with, but don't look at all too much. So talking about financial success on YouTube, we're basically talking about AdSense. I'm sure some of you are familiar, but AdSense is the system that automatically curates advertisements on almost all of YouTube's content. The world's most successful channels generally have ads curated more manually, but almost all of us are subject to AdSense. A lot of things influence AdSense revenue. One of the biggest and most obvious ones is the general age of your audience, and depending on that age, also the time of year. And an example of a less obvious one is whether or not the thing you're making videos about is in competition with anything else, and how direct and or active that competition is. Because ads are placed by auction, that is going to influence how much money you make by a lot. And there are a lot of fluctuations. Every so often, you really do need to average because there will be a video that will do way better just because some company was really plugging away at a certain ad. But that's AdSense. You get the idea. Research that more if you're interested. It's fascinating. But gaming is a pretty strong genre for AdSense revenue for a lot of obvious reasons. And generally, the roadblock is that the advertising community has a bit of a bee in its collective bonnet about the gaming community because, of course, they do. That mostly doesn't affect me directly at this time, but I'm sure I'll come back to that statement in a few years. Okay, so that's how I would get my money from AdSense directly. But let me say a little bit about how I perceive my CPM, why I think it's like that, because I'm not at all surprised that it's a lot lower than average, at least as far as I know. And I'll talk a little bit about why I don't do anything to change that as well. So first of all, my videos are asking you to be a very active thinker and engage with the information. They aren't asking you to follow along and stay nice and cozy necessarily, and the kinds of people who would enjoy that type of thing will tend to be the kinds of people that use ad blocking software. The more you ask your audience to really think about things and not settle for the status quo, the less ads are going to show in your videos, because functionally, people thinking about their life and trying to improve it are probably going to decide they don't want to watch ads, and they're going to put AdSense software on their computer. Or most likely they're already going to have it on there. I doubt I'm causing people to use AdSense software. It's much more that I'm attracting the people that already are, to some degree. And for that matter, compared to the Warframe community at large, this is connected, but my videos are also watched by a generally older audience, which lowers CPM because you can sell more stuff to a high school or college student than to anyone else. And finally, unrelated to those two things, I don't aggressively use ad breaks. So I mentioned earlier that you kind of get better revenue from videos longer than exactly 10 minutes long, but you can also manually add more ads to videos longer than exactly 10 minutes. And there's sort of a threshold on how frequently you can include them, presumably because YouTube has calculated that if you include them too often, the person's going to go off the thing. And remember that when I make money, YouTube makes money. So they don't want me to make a decision that they've researched to and found to be a bad one, you know? So you can manually add ad breaks in videos that are exactly 10 minutes long or longer, and I only very rarely do that, pretty much always as an experiment to get some data. And it doesn't do a whole lot. Generally speaking, those are either skipped or that's a point where people stop watching the video, which is bad for a reason that we'll get into in a moment. There's a reason YouTube doesn't put those in automatically. So, all right. All that stuff kind of forms the financial shell of what the situation looks like. And as I said, I'm going to talk just a little bit for a minute about why I don't do anything to change that. But this is transitioning into the other reason that I even use YouTube, and that is much more important, so we'll move on to talking about that. So the reason that I don't really focus on getting people to do things differently or like tell people to turn on AdSense or whatever, I mean, that would be pretty extreme, but you know, is because I think that curating that type of audience on YouTube has a very direct relationship to how much revenue you earn elsewhere. And I am only one person, but I am fairly confident that I've proven that. For a lot of the other people that are around my size in the Warframe community and beyond, I make a lot more money on Patreon than they do, but I make a lot less money on YouTube. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that having a call to action that involves another website is a lot easier to sell if you're asking people to be so active in their thinking and really dig into their life and change stuff around than asking them to maybe give you $1 a month is a lot more swingable than it would be if you were saying, you know, haha memes, here's the weekly news about, you know, what's going on in this game. That's perfectly fine, and that will get way more views and earn way more AdSense revenue, but you're very unlikely to convince those people that they should go out of their way to give you $1 every month, which again, it's when you put it like that, it's like, well, of course, but for a lot of people, they're very skeptical about whether or not there is a best strategy. A lot of people view it as just like it is what it is, but I feel very, very confident that the way that I've approached this is the best way to approach it overall. Definitely the best for me, but has advantages overall and is not done as often as it could be. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit and talk about this other metric for success, which is obviously reach. The main reason that I even use YouTube is to get reach, not to make money. And indeed, I make the least money off of YouTube out of the platforms that I focus on. So let's talk about those. So from a purely I run a business that employs only myself perspective, YouTube is my reach platform, Patreon is my revenue platform, and Twitch is my mainstay platform. What I mean by that is that YouTube introduces newcomers to me and to my stuff, while Patreon provides reliable revenue that is more directly correlated to my actions and output. In other words, if I want to make more money, I can try harder, and that is principally going to affect Patreon. And Twitch is my mainstay platform. That basically just means it keeps it all together. It provides direct access to me and my goings-on, while also doing a bit of the introducing and a bit of the consistent paying. Again, it's kind of the anchor. If I were to only keep one platform, I would keep Twitch. But I wouldn't do this at all if I had to only keep one platform. If I was forced to keep doing this, but I could only keep one platform, I would keep Twitch. But I would quit if I had to do that. It's not safe. It's just like, it's good to divest. First of all, I want to make money off all three platforms because then if anything goes wrong on one of them, that risk is sort of split up between the other two. YouTube doesn't do so well for a year, last year, then, you know, it's not such a big deal because you still have Patreon and Twitch and you have that cushion, you know? It's hard to maintain growth on all three platforms, but they also benefit each other. So long as people enjoy what's on all three platforms, you ultimately get a lot of variety, and you can keep your audience excited about very frequent content if you want to make it. And this is the part that wouldn't be such a great choice for everyone. I am definitely a person who is capable of a lot of output. I've been trying to harness that capability for the past couple of years, but I'm getting very close, and we're getting content much more frequently now. We're approaching a period of time where you should be getting something more often than once a day. And I think that that will be so much that most people don't even consume it all. And I think at that point, it's not like there's not even a point in making more. And I think that I can do that quite comfortably and be quite happy. But that's not true for everyone, for sure. And that part, I think, is not so general a good choice. But overall, the cross-pollination, I'm using these platforms for what they're strongest at. That is a very good approach that I believe more people should copy. If you want my advice for how to get into doing this yourself, that is my advice. You should do all 3 platforms more if you're interested. Don't go crazy, but a few more. Like Instagram, I've heard is pretty good for growth right now, no matter what genre you're in. So you could try that. I'm not really into it, but give it a try. Yeah. So anyway, the point is, YouTube is strongest for giving you reach. YouTube is big, and that's its main benefit. So when I say that Drift Frame was the most successful video I've ever made, it's not because it made me the most money, because overall, it was a very unreliable way to make that money. I have other videos that have made me fairly reasonable amounts of money, and they're more reliable. Like, I get why they made me that much money. I don't feel that it was luck. I feel it was something that if you set out to make money by making a Warframe video, you could make that video that I made and you would make money. Whereas the Drift Frame video, it's like, okay, I get why that might go viral, but might is the operative word, The way that I knew that video was going to be successful, and my goal when I made that video was not to make money, it was to get watch time. That video is very long, and I knew that my core audience was going to be interested in it because it's pretty much what I do. It's not a hard sell for people who already enjoy what I make. It's a giant build video. It's just an insane amount of build videos, all focused around a paradigm that maybe you're not used to. So it's exciting. It's fun. I didn't think it was going to be a hard sell at all for my core audience, not for over 2/3 of a million people or however many people have watched that video. So the purpose of it was to get watch time. I wanted to get a couple thousand views, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of minutes of watching. YouTube has some crazy cocktail of the amount of money you're making, the amount of views you get, and the amount of watch time you get. And that combines to form how effective you are as a creator. So let's say that you're a game review channel and you put up a video every month, only once a month, and it's an hour long. And most of your core audience watches most of it, well, almost all of it. That's pretty reasonable. And let's say there's another channel, you have a friend, and he puts up 10 videos every month, but they're only about 6 minutes long. So this would be like a more average channel. You could do this for Warframe. There are Warframe creators you could map this onto. Those 2 channels are going to have different view counts. The person with 10 videos is very likely going to have way more views, but their watch time, that might be a bit more similar. And the person with the big video with a ton of watch time on it actually comes out better than you might expect. And I try to combine these things. I try to provide content of all sizes for various reasons, because I know people have different wants and needs at different times. And also just because I think if you look for what format fits the content best, you will naturally make videos of different lengths. And that resulted in, thinking, oh, I want to do this idea. Let's just do it all at once. It makes way more sense than doing it as a bunch of little videos that it's like, well, I don't want to watch one standalone video about one build for racing, but like all of them together, the complete package in one video, a whole niche described completely in one video. That was what was exciting about it to a lot of people. And that's what I did. And it did really well. And it got me an insane amount of watch time. For a little while afterward, all my videos just did really well because the algorithm was going crazy with how much watch time I got out of that video. It didn't go viral immediately, but it was getting me a lot of watch time, a whole lot of watch time. It took a couple of weeks for it to really take off. Really a viral video in the truest sense. It didn't just launch and explode. It very much was sitting there, and then all of a sudden it just took off, just out of nowhere. It was behaving very normally, very well, but normally for the first couple of weeks. And when I do longer videos like that in the future, hint, I'm going to, I'm very curious to see what happens and how they measure up to that video. I think that that is a pretty complete answer about why I talk about success the way I often talk about it. Again, mostly financial success ends up being more analogous to just view count. But the actual success of a video, and you asked about specifically financial success, but the actual success of a video is often much more down to how it makes people think of me and how much watch time I get out of it. That's mostly how I think about it. I think that overall, view counts come and go. It can be very luck based. It can be pretty much just a lottery. But watch time, you can control that a bit more. You can sell that, or you can fail to sell it. And, message, like, what does this make my audience think of me and associate with me and tell other people about me? And the drift frame video was very, very successful in absolutely every way. I could not be happier that that is one of the videos that got super popular. I could not ask for a better video to have gotten popular, because now I'm known all over the Warframe community for that. You know what I mean? It's not just known all over the community. It's known for what, And that, I think, is a very, very fun thing to be known by. Like, that one fun, cool thing, not, oh, that guy's a super elite hardcore player. Like, whatever. That guy is always up to date on the news. Like, so is everyone else. That is something I'm very, very proud of. This turned into mostly talking about that drift frame video. Okay, I hope that is a very complete answer to your excellent and very complicated question. But again, even only answering it from the financial perspective, it's a big one. All right. I've been Zandy, and I want to thank thecuber once again for their support on Patreon. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have something to take care of.